Hello, welcome back to another episode of Xbox Infinite, episode 36. And it has been a very interesting week in gaming, and we have an awesome guest this week to chop it up, and probably one of the best guests we could get for the topics that we have this week. Kay Asante, how you doing, man? Welcome back to the show. It's been a while. It's great to have you back, man. What have you been up to? What have you been playing? How's your week been?
Good evening. Good evening. No, I've been great. You set up the bat signal, and I just had to come back here. I love hanging out with you guys. Unfortunately, my man Umbra has not made his diva entrance as of yet. So I'm saddened, but hopefully he shows up at some point soon. But no, I'm pleased to be here. I see the great folks in the chat already. So good evening, Web Dave. I see him in there right now. No, it's been an interesting week for me. I was actually just talking to DoomCutie about it. I've been playing some weird stuff. I've delved into the weird world of Steam Deck emulation. So anything and everything I can try and play on the Steam Deck, I try to play on the Steam Deck. Right now, the game I'm playing is Kirby Forbidden. Kirby Forbidden Land or whatever, the new Kirby game. I'm playing on there, and also Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I'm playing on there, and Jet Set Radio Future from Xbox. I'm also playing on there as well. So just I'm emulating games, checking them out, seeing if they're cool, and then if they play really well, I'm like, hey, why not? And I've been playing through a couple of them. So just to kind of remind myself of the great old days, as it were. So between that and then Final Fantasy Remake that I've been going through for I think the past 6 months. So that's been keeping me pretty busy. Yeah. Waiting for something really big in AAA to come out and take my attention away.
Yeah, we're going to be waiting a while. I didn't get into that Final Fantasy 7. Actually, I've got that on my PS Plus subscription, so I do need to check that out. But yes, Umbra is not with us just yet. If you guys don't know, he does have COVID. And he was struggling a bit, so hopefully he will come through later in the show, but at the moment he's just a little bit out of it, and we'll see what happens later in the show. DoomCutie, how you doing? You just had an awesome stream with Forza, who rated your channel.
I know.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Let people... I was going to say, let the people know how that went and how your week's been.
No, oh my God, so amazing. Having Forza raid my stream was probably it's probably like the pinnacle of my gaming content creation journey. So I am absolutely psyched. So thank you so much to Forza for doing that as well. I had some really great chat going, and it was a vibe. At the beginning I had a few troubleshooting issues because I don't have a really good capture card, but it's next on my list of things to buy. So yeah, I'm feeling good. This week I've been obviously playing Forza. I've played a little bit of Fortnite. I haven't really played much new, to be honest. I've been getting into a little bit of multiverses as well. So yeah, just been having a good time, and I'm looking forward to our stream tomorrow.
Yes,
that's Gears of War.
I was going to mention that, absolutely. That'll be at 7 p.m. EST Saturday if you're in the US, and 7 p.m. Or 9 p.m. Australian time, depending on if you're on the east or the west. JediKnightPete, we've been having a blast playing Ascent last night. I dropped that game for a bit because I got to a mission that was bugged, couldn't progress any further, and I thought, man, I really need to play this game and finish it. And we were having a ball, man. How's your week been? What have you been up to? And we know what you've been playing. You play lots of things.
Yeah, I did. I have been playing what we see on screen at the moment. My friend Pedro, you recommended it to me, Risk It. I did download it when it initially jumped onto Game Pass, and I just, one of those games that you just let slide, and you never get around to it. So I really enjoyed that. Really, really fun game just to chill out with. I played a little bit more of Multiverse, which I've been enjoying, and yes, the Ascent. I thought you asked me to play because they announced they dropped DLC for the Ascent, but no. And yeah, like you, mate, I got pretty far in the game. I think I got up to, I don't even know, level 40, something like that. But the game bugged out on me, and I lost my entire cyber deck. And if anyone's played the game, you can't progress if you don't have your cyber deck, and there was no way to fix it. So I got a bit pissed off with that, and put it aside. But yeah, really having fun getting back to it now.
Yeah, no,
the show.
I'm having a blast with it, and just that's a good point for everyone. You always need to make sure that you keep your cyber deck nice and clean, otherwise it can bug out. Look, I've been playing like a ridiculous amount of games. I've been playing my friend Pedro.
I didn't hear that at all last night. I mean, that's the first time I've heard that.
There was a lot of cyber deck jokes going around last night for sure. I've been playing a lot of games. My friend Pedro. I finished Inside. I finished Dead Space 2. I'm co-oping Dead Space 3 with Monad there in the chat. I've got a chance to just game my absolute socks off because my partner has gone overseas and taken my son. So I've just had nothing but free time, and it has been amazing. I have had an absolutely great week. I'm not sick anymore, so that is fantastic. I was sick there for about three weeks, maybe even a month, so it was getting a bit long in the tooth. Anyway, let's get into our crazy topics for the week, because there's been some very interesting things happening in the industry. No big game announcements, which we're really starved for. It's really dry at the moment, and that sucks, but there is things and movement in the background, especially with the ABK deal. PlayStation submitted some comments to the Brazilian, I can't remember the acronym for the place that handles all this sort of stuff, but it's basically the Brazilian FTC, and they are very open. And so all of their submissions are public, and so you can actually get a hold of all of those submissions from the different companies and read what it is and what their thoughts are on the deal. And I'm going to read this out because I haven't heard anyone actually read out Sony's response to the questions. I won't read out the questions, but I'll just let you know what they said. And I'll be as quick as possible. If you guys know me, I can read extremely fast and speak extremely fast when the time calls for it. So they said, they say from a development publication perspective, game development typically involves an early stage that is neutral in relation to the platform before the game is adapted for one or more specific platforms. They believe that all games compete for engagement of the player, and players choose their gaming platform based on pricing, technical features, and available game types. The available content is the main factor for the player to choose a platform. Notice how they set that up there. Very, very clever of them, but not a very, very clever submission in the end. They say that there are a few barriers to entry in game development and publishing for PC, that only one developer can create an indie game and distribute it online, but creating a high-end AAA game like Activision's Call of Duty, strange that they put that one in there, requires a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars and thousands of employees. They say, notice how they say, that apart from the Activision, there's few developers, publishers capable of producing AAA games such as EA's FIFA, Take-Two, Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto, Epic Games' Fortnite. These games tend to be long-running franchises with big budgets, multi-year development cycles, and very supportive followers. Despite all of that, Sony believes that none of these developers could create a franchise to rival Activision's Call of Duty, which stands out as a gaming category on its own. That's why they believe that Call of Duty is so popular that it influences users' choice of console. In fact, their network of loyal users is so ingrained that even if a competitor had the budget to develop a similar product, it would not be able to create a rival. There is a lot more things that they go on to say, and I'll sum up the last section as they very much believe that you can't compete with Call of Duty. And you can't compete with Activision Blizzard, and that you cannot compete. None of their developers can compete. I found this really like craziness. I just kind of sat there and read this with my mouth open, a bit dumbfounded, because didn't you guys just buy Bungie? Aren't they like one of the biggest live service developers on the planet? Aren't they a studio that has a game that hasn't left the top 10 of Steam since its inception in Destiny 2? Don't you have a bigger player count than Call of Duty? This is absolute craziness, and I understand from a business perspective why you would say these things, but you've got to base them in fact, and Sony definitely hasn't based them in fact. And frankly, I agree with Destin's take. He's got a wonderful video about how Sony does sound weak, and they do, and so does I forget his name, the developer of God of War, the initial developer. I can't think of his name. He basically told him to man up. And I agree with... Sorry?
Corey Barlog?
No, not Corey Barlog, the original developer. I can't remember his name. David Jaffe. David Jaffe. David Jaffe had some interesting things to say about it, and he said basically to man up, and I 110% agree, but I understand why they did this. Look, I'm going to go to UK. This is, I did not expect this from Sony. And there's a lot of people questioning, like, do you think that they knew that this was public? And yes, they knew it was public. They knew that people were going to read this. And how did they not think the optics of this were going to be bad? What are your thoughts on Sony's submission?
Well, okay. So I agree with Jaffe's take. And I'm actually surprised that people are surprised by this. So, okay. This is really interesting because, and of course, you remember later on, Microsoft also responded, basically also talking out of both sides of their mouth as well, saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? Call of Duty? That's not that big a deal. It's a game like any other." That's basically what they said in their response. But what's happening here is they're not talking to you and me, right? They're talking to those specific regulators. And I said this on Twitter when this whole news came out, and everybody was like, what the hell's going on? I said, the culprit becomes the victim in the ears of the unknowing. At least that's what Sony hopes, right? They've been doing this kind of boss move stuff for years. We've seen them do it for years. There's documented evidence. There's, what do you call them? Reports that come out from Bloomberg that show various pieces of contracts that really show how bossy they can be in the industry, right? That has been documented many times. But of course, aggressively, exactly. But of course, they can't expect you to know that, regulator. They expect you to do your job. So while they don't know if you've actually done your history on it or not, they got to play their position, right? What happens when the bully, you're sitting there, you're doing your thing, the bully smacks you, you're like, leave me alone. He smacks you, you leave me alone. You eventually smack him back. But as soon as you do, a teacher shows up. What does the bully do? He grabs his face and starts pretending that he's the one that got hurt. That's what's happening here. They're playing their position perfectly. They've been through hook or crook trying to make sure that they get exclusives all the time, even if it means, kind of bullying their way in the market to the point where it hurts others to be able to do that, Microsoft specifically, right? But they know, and there's a big modicum of truth to what they're saying there, right? They know definitively, I mean, it's shrouded in a lot of BS, but they know specifically that Call of Duty moves units. And by units, I mean console sales and platform choice. Call of Duty has always been able to do that. That's what they mean when they say, even if you build a competing product, you'll still not be able to compete because people are already entrenched in it. They already know that, my brother's playing there. My cousin's playing there. So that's why they'll play there as well. So that's what they are afraid of. But to put that in ink and say that that's a problem, that is in the category of duh. How many years have you been money hatting Square Enix to make sure that Final Fantasy is basically an exclusive on PlayStation? No one has been able to go anywhere and say, hey, this is unfair, right? It's business. It's what they're doing, right? And of course, then Microsoft has to come in and go, hey, we're just buying this company, it's fine, Call of Duty's not a big deal. I'm like, yeah, you just spent $70 billion. I don't think anybody can hear you say that with a straight face and think you're serious about it. They're just playing the game. That's what's happening here. I am not surprised at all that Sony is saying this. I'm surprised that people are actually so surprised about it. My question is, the regulators that they're trying to speak to, do they do their homework? Have they spoken to interns, the ones that play Call of Duty, and had them sit down and say, let me tell you something about what these people do in the industry? Because if they don't do that, they might see this because, of course, that's the reason why Microsoft is always having to play that, be the underdog game. They already have infinite resources. So whenever they join a market, all these regulators got their ears out already because potentially Microsoft could ruin the environment if they so choose. So they can't be as aggressive as Sony is, right? So at the end of the day, it'll be up to the regulators to see if they actually do their jobs here. And that's the interesting part. But none of this is going to matter in the long run. It's not to say that, oh my God, we're careful, we have to be cautious, and because of this, there stands any chance of it, derailing the deal any. None of this will matter in the long run. It's just very interesting that Sony chose to take the steps that they did, because yes, as you guys have noted, definitely they knew this was going to come out in the public, and yeah, they chose to be the victim here. And the question is, are we all going to remember all the money hatting they do, as Umbra calls it, money hat studios that they do all the time? Because if we do, then all of this seems ridiculous. If we don't, then they're the victim being bullied by big bad Microsoft. That's what's going on here.
Well, that is the thing. Microsoft does have the money to bully Sony if they so choose, and Sony's
if
been
they so chose to, it'd be horrible. And even Microsoft themselves know it, because in their history, there have been times when they've kind of overstepped their bounds, and many governments have made them pay for that, almost splitting them up, if you recall. So they really are very cognizant of how they are perceived in the market. So they are the kid on the block that has to be hit first, and everyone has to see that they got hit first before they'll hit back, because they don't want there to be any misconception as to who caused this butt whooping you're about to get when they go loose. You know what I'm saying? So basically, they have enough evidence to say, hey, we're basically fighting back. And after all of this, ABK stuff comes through, it doesn't even equal them being the first in the market anyway, right? We're talking about the victim here being, by all accounts, by any metric that matters, they are the market leader. So nothing you're saying here really holds any water, right? It's just that funny game that they play, because they know that, yeah, there are people who pay attention to all the balls and strikes. There are people who pay attention to the stuff that we say or that we said, right? But not everybody does that. So let's see if the regulators, who supposedly have some sway over this situation, let's see if they've done their homework. Welcome if they have, this becomes like, one of those funny things that we've trained the market. They know we're aggressive. We'll do what we can. We'll know what we gotta, and that's it. But if somehow they do have some power, and somehow they can sway the decision, somehow cause a consent decree, force Microsoft to maybe make a concession that they maybe would not have in the first place, that to Sony is a win, right? Because indeed, they are true. It is true that if you check the dollars and cents, if Call of Duty decides to go away, which by all intents and purposes, I think the reason why Sony is still talking about it, even though Microsoft has publicly come out and said something to the effect of it's never coming, it's staying multiplat, is because Sony knows that if they were in that position, at some point they would finagle their way out of it. So they're thinking, how the heck could Microsoft not do the same? So we might as well try and put the kibosh on the deal if we can. You know what I'm saying? So
exactly,
at the end of the day,
I was saying exactly the same thing. Sony thinks of the market and runs their business a certain way, and they can only expect other businesses in the space to do exactly the same thing that they would do. And so this would have them running scared. Absolutely. I think that they would do everything that they could. Now,
and I don't think they're running scared, though. I don't think that's what's happening here. I think this is one of those shrewd moves. Hey, they're looking at us. Pretend you're hurt. Get down on one knee. Are you hurt? Yeah, you're looking hurt, right? They are not hurt at all by this. They just know that there are eyes on them. And potentially, maybe these guys could help wound Microsoft a little for us. Sure, let's put on a show. That's what this is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, Ubisoft weighed in on this, and I'll just throw in what they said. And this is off the back of Microsoft made their submission early. And in that submission, they did state that they don't believe that Microsoft, that ABK has anything unique to the market or anything that is a must-have. That was their exact words. I think that was in prediction of what Sony would do. And Ubisoft, their response was for them, the PC and console market are the same, but mobile is totally different. There's no justification for a market distinction based on their games and types. Many games cross genres, and players typically are not limited to a single player game genre. They don't think, Ubisoft doesn't think that ABK has unique games because there is no such video game title that doesn't have a close competitor. All publishers and games compete for the available playtime, and no title stands alone in its own genre. So Ubisoft very much backed what Microsoft said in its submission, in that every single game has a competitor, and that's true. That's absolutely true. But Microsoft saying that there's not a must-have in ABK, I mean, come on. That's a little bit of a stretch, in my opinion. But again, they've got to play that market. Pete, what were your thoughts on the submission from Sony, Ubisoft's response, and Microsoft's submission? Pete is...
Yep, sorry, I am a little distracted by all the chat, to be honest. I'm sorry.
No, he's too flattered by his fanboying in the chat. Jeez. Goodness me.
I just, do I sound a little, did I hear a little bit of jealousy to me? I mean...
Well, look, at the end of the day, Pete, I'm the one who's happy to be on camera. So, bring it.
Yeah, look, Hargeet's down to join the stream as well, if you guys would like him to come in, because it doesn't look like Umbra's showing. He does have COVID, guys, so give him a bit of a break. He's really been struggling sleeping. It's a shame, because Umbra had some absolutely fantastic takes that we were talking about during topics on this topic. But in regards to Sony's response, they just came up, they must have known this was going to get into the public sphere, and they just sound weak as fuck, really. They really do. I mean, and Microsoft has every right to make the game exclusive, although I don't think it would be good for Call of Duty if they did do that. I think the player count of Call of Duty is what makes it so great, and you take away from the actual game if, you do make it exclusive to one platform. But so I hope they don't do that. But what they will do, and I talked about this on KY's show yesterday, is during the 360 generation, Microsoft had the marketing rights to Call of Duty, and you associated Call of Duty with the Xbox platform. In the PS4 generation, PlayStation had the marketing rights to Call of Duty, and you associated Call of Duty with the PlayStation platform, and I think the same thing will happen. So yeah, I get that we will know that the game will be on all platforms, but for the casuals out there and the marketing that they'll do with Call of Duty, I think that the casuals won't really realize that it'll be on PlayStation, and they will choose the Xbox platform, as their main platform, because, a lot of people buy a platform just to play COD. So, yeah, look, and Sony just came off sounding, like I said, weak as fuck. They really should have gone about it in a different way. I really did like the way that everybody else went about it. 2K, Ubisoft, all of them saying that there's nothing specifically unique about what Activision does with any of their IPs. And I totally agree with that. Yes, Call of Duty is a behemoth. No one is, saying that it's not. It's always in the top 10 games played. It always has a massive player count. I think Warzone made something like $1.6 billion or something ridiculous like that. So it's an absolute juggernaut. But there are other games that compete with it. Fortnite, Apex, Rainbow Six Siege. There's
they're acting like this is the only game in its genre. Honestly, and I think,
and not only that, Doomy, like, you're going to pay $70 billion to get people to buy your console. I mean, of course you are. I mean, Sony do it all the time. They market Spider-Man. You can only play Spider-Man on the PlayStation console. You
God of
can't play it
War.
yeah, exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Last of Us. Yeah.
Welcome, Huggy.
Hey, Hugate.
How's it going?
I think, thinking that Call of Duty is in its own game category is pretty stupid and irreplaceable. And then, I'm just looking through the notes now, and it's like, the fact that they're saying that Game Pass is harming consumers, but they just brought out PlayStation Plus. I don't know. It's weird. This whole thing is weird, and I think I don't know. I can't get my head around every single thing, but all I know is that from what I've seen, and Asante hit it right on hit the nail on the head. It's they're trying to cry wolf. They're trying to make themselves look like they're suffering when they're not, and this is the nature of the beast. It's a business,
Risk it. A lot of people are saying that they can't hear you, but then I think you're back now. So I'm not sure what happened, mate, but just double check everything.
I had myself on mute. Yeah, I had some problems with my mic earlier in the week while I was on Boxenberger's show, and I haven't quite been able to fix the glitch or whatever the hell is going on with the software there. But I will work on that later on today. Apologies, guys. Sorry about that. Look, I'll just move to Hugate on that, but you brought up a very, very good point, DoomCutie, about they did mention Game Pass, they did mention services and how they were unable to compete.
They're like, no, on PlayStation Plus that we did pretty much no marketing for, and didn't put any valuable games on there. It's doing so poorly, and
exactly.
what the hell?
It's really their own fault at the end of the day, because they haven't added first party. They haven't taken PS Plus to its absolute max and extremes. They haven't tried to compete. So to say that it can't compete, that's absolute rubbish. Huggy, what were your thoughts on Sony's submission for the Activision deal, and their thoughts on the services where they can't compete as well? I mean, it's just ridiculousness, but.
Man, what a whiny company. I don't know what the heck they were thinking by putting that out there. It just is so dumb. So one of the things that's interesting that you just pointed out with their service, they bought Bungie, right? And doesn't Bungie make a live service game? Weren't we expecting all their live service games to at least be in their stupid service? Well, they just put out the 3 games they're going to put out, 3 games that are going to be in that service for 1 month, and they didn't put Destiny in there? What's going on, Sony? Right? I don't think they want to succeed. What the heck are they doing? Right? The obvious thing is to put those kind of games in there and get people hooked to those games. Right? Make it so there's a reason to get the service, but they're putting in a game for a month. And okay, well, that's an interesting move, Sony. But
especially
the entire thing
Destiny is a free-to-play game, and they only make their money back by selling microtransactions. I mean, it's
and expansions, right? Exactly. And to put that in perspective, Game Pass had the expansions in it. So why the hell can't Sony's premium service?
It's a very interesting thing that you're saying here. I think it's right? I don't think it's by accident. I think that's by design. I don't think that they want that in there or to have any success right now, because obviously the eyes are on them, Microsoft and the ABK deal.
Potentially, right? But it is a very interesting move, right? If they want to compete, they should compete. And look, they're going to be forced to do so one way or the other, and that's a good thing. But for them to complain about all this being in the position they're in, to say, oh, if somebody went and bought somebody, that somehow that would make it so people would choose their platform, that's the dumbest, stupid thing ever. Oh, thank you very much, Nostradamus. That's obvious. That's the whole point. Like, I don't understand why they were even saying that. Like, everybody knows if you're going to offer something, the point is people will come to you, right? Duh. Thank you. But, like, yeah, that whole thing was just terrible. Now, it could just be a translation thing. It could be. Right, or it could be that that's just the way they had to declare that because they were asked. It still sounds pretty stupid. So I thought it was pretty annoying that they did that. It is what it is, though, right? But you see everybody else saying nothing that similar. I didn't see Nintendo come out and say, "Oh, you know what? Woe is me. The Wii U didn't sell. It's PlayStation's fault. It's Xbox's." No, they self-reflected and said, "No, we did something wrong. Let's fix it." Right, that's what you're supposed to do. Sony, you're at top position right now. Shut up, go freaking compete.
And Hargeet, to your point, real quick, you brought up Nintendo. It's a very interesting point because what platform is taking everything by storm, beating everyone, and doesn't have Call of Duty on it?
The Switch.
Exactly. It's Switch. No third-party AAA support. It's kicking everybody's butt, right? Compete, Sony. You can do it. The thing is, Sony has everything it needs, right? Nintendo has these awesome studios that make games that everybody seems to love. It doesn't matter, right? They're not these massive graphical, things, but everybody wants to buy them anyway. And Sony has like these world-class studios and now owns Bungie, one of the best freaking multiplayer games, multiplayer developers. They have everything they need for success. They just need to freaking compete.
Yeah, but I think it makes sense for they're a massive company. They need to fight. They're going to fight back. And if they can stop this deal, of course they're going to try to stop this deal. Like they will say and do anything that they possibly can to stop the deal. But the optics of it don't look good. And I think when you make a submission and that submission's going to be public, you would want to think about how you word this. I
get that, Risket. I get that they're trying to stop the deal in any way, shape, or form. But do you think that they went about it the right way? I mean, saying that there's that no other, what did they say? No other developer can devote the same level of resources and expertise in game development, even if they could do that. Call of Duty is overly entrenched, so that no rival, no matter how relevant they are, can catch up. I mean, that's just a blatant lie.
It's a slap in the face to every other developer.
Exactly.
Like, hello, Fortnite? And anybody play Fortnite? Like, what? Hello?
But hold on, guys. One thing I will say, though, just so you understand the ramifications of why they may feel like they're in desperation mode, this is not just Call of Duty. It is Call of Duty, sure. But understand what Call of Duty does. Imagine they have that world, and Mr. Boomstick, shout out to him. He always says it. The moment they have the opportunity to, you'll see a Series S with the Call of Duty sticker slapped on the box, and it'll be like $199, right? It'll be included in Game Pass or something, right? When that stuff happens, not only will they lose the marketing the capabilities to market Call of Duty, PlayStation will. There's also a world where, as you guys have said it, there are people who just buy into a platform just for COD. Nothing else. That's all they'll play. Oh, and it has these perks. Yeah. Sure, I'm there. In that world, the Game Pass and Xbox as a platform will balloon quickly. And what will that mean in addition to PlayStation losing marketing? That'll also mean when you've seen IGN first. When you see those, what do you usually see? You see the X's and the crosses and the triangle. Most priority platforms, it's PlayStation platform. They have enjoyed the priority of development for a long time because they're the market leader. The minute all of a sudden Xbox has a whole bunch of odd players on their side and everybody's moving there because there's a lot of free stuff there, presumably free stuff there, all of a sudden not only are you not the market leader anymore, you can't money hat your way into third-party exclusives as you used to because all of a sudden the other guy has way more people and it's not cost effective to just give you a game anymore. This stuff snowballs. You know what I mean?
I don't feel sorry for them. Like they've honestly put themselves in this position.
They've been money hatting for years, you know.
Yeah, and I honestly, even if Call of Duty becomes an Xbox exclusive, I just don't care. I really don't. And it's not. I own both a PS5 and an Xbox. I don't even play Call of Duty. But what I'm saying is, if we're talking about numbers, talking about bringing people to a console. They did it themselves. They've been lazy. They're so lazy. And you know,
where's the SOCOM right now? It should be out there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's laziness. I think it's they've been rolling with their business model for far too long, and you've seen it happen with so many so many other companies like Kodak. When digital came in, Kodak was like, "Oh, we don't need to change. What we've been doing has been working for so long. We don't need to be on top of this." Blockbuster Video, we don't need to change. What we've been doing has been working for so long. Our business model's been working, and I'll give credit to Sony. They are late to jump, but they are jumping. Like they're finally starting to see that, hang on a minute, this business model is going to push us out if we don't do something about this now. And they're whining, about their services. They're not going far enough. You've got to jump into the ether and take that chance, take the risk. And they haven't done that with their services. So in regards to their services, that to me was absolutely laughable. And I think you're right, Kay, absolutely. What they're trying to do is see if they can pull the wool over this the regulator's eyes, because maybe they haven't done their research. Maybe they don't know enough about the industry, and maybe they might go, "Oh, look at these guys, these poor guys." Like I doubt that's going to happen, right?
because whenever you see Microsoft, what do you see? You see the 8-pound gorilla in the room. They have more money than governments. So the minute, and you've heard their history, right? So the minute that you see that anybody's competing against countries. Them, than most countries. So it pays for them to always to be the first to get smacked in the face. You have to see them get hit, because God forbid anybody else sees them hit back. Oh boy, the gorilla just hurt somebody. That's the problem.
Now, to contradict that a bit, the Call of Duty stuff really kind of started with the 360 gen, and it was 360 that had Xbox had the marketing rights.
That's right, yeah.
And even with that, PlayStation 3 ended up beating Xbox in install base, right? And they did that on the back of bringing out titles that people wanted to play and creating partnerships that they want. Games like Metal Gear Solid 4 being exclusive. Other games like that, Final Fantasies. They did that, right? And there's nothing stopping them from continuing to do that.
I'll also throw in a caveat here, Hargate, just to quickly interrupt you, and I'll let you keep going. You do have to remember that the Red Ring of Death was like an extremely prevalent, and I'm pretty sure it had a fairly decent effect on sales for Xbox.
Yeah, but you know what they did? They fixed it. They got to work.
I don't know about that, Risket. I don't know about that.
No, he's right. But they got to work. They spent the money. They took that loss. They didn't make big amounts of money for years. But you know what? They've come out the other side, and it's amazing.
Oh, the Red Ring of Death had a massive effect on sales. If you're saying it didn't, it did.
No, it did. Yeah. No. That's what I'm saying. So they took so much. They sacrificed so much in regards to sales to try and fix this problem. And they dug in and they fixed it.
Yeah, and they were fixing consoles out of warranty, and I know they did that because they did it with mine. I got it once, and it happened very late in the console generation, and they fixed it free of charge, no dramas. Sorry to interrupt you, Heartgate.
That's what I was saying, Riskin. I don't know if it had a massive effect on the actual sales of the 360, because the 360 just sold amazingly well, and a lot of the reason for that was the Mass Effect and games of that caliber were exclusive and money handed by Microsoft.
Yeah. So if you watch the sales, you can actually see the effect of Red Ring. If you watch the sales throughout the generations, you can actually see the effect that Red Ring had on the 360. It was extremely detrimental. They were out in front of Sony by a really decent margin. And when that Red Ring started, they started getting the Red Ring issues. And especially early in the generation when they weren't talking about it, they were just trying to because they didn't. I mean, we saw in the documentary that they actually didn't know how to fix it, and so they weren't talking about it. And that silence also really hurt them because people were hearing about the Red Ring of Death, and they weren't hearing anything from Microsoft. And so, look, Pete, I could absolutely go. We can go through the sales figures, and I can show you where it hurt them.
Look, it might have, but also at the same time, Sony reduced their price of the ridiculously expensive PlayStation 3. It's like $1,100 in Australia. And then programmers were finding it extremely difficult to program for that system with their cell the CPU that they decided to go with. So, in combination, you're right, I think it did affect them. but it wasn't, the
it's-
be all and end
It's
all.
not anyone. It's not any one thing. It never is any one thing when it comes to a business. But it absolutely did give PlayStation the opportunity to slip back into the market.
Yep.
And that's 110% what they did. Like Hargeet was just saying, they did that with their games and starting to be pro-consumer. And we've seen PlayStation be extremely anti-consumer at the beginning of this generation. And
that's the main difference. Yep. Sean Layden generation is very different to the Jim Ryan generation. Sony's anti-consumer tactics this generation are hurting them tremendously, and Xbox's positive consumer things like Game Pass, which is, let's face it, it's the best deal in entertainment. We've said it numerous times. It's going to start taking hold. What, they're 5,000 consoles, 5 million consoles behind now? That's a lot closer than I'm sure Sony thought it was going to be.
Every time Pete says Game Pass, he gets $1.
That's actually true. I've seen the profit loss statements from Pete's. No, I'm kidding. Look, has anyone got anything else they want to add? This is a very loaded topic and one we could talk about for quite some time. I don't want to stick on it for too long. But before I do move on, does anyone else want to add anything to the?
I just wanted to say what Hargeet said. What Umbra said.
Put your hand up, Pete.
Umbra said that Call of Duty is unique, and because he's not here to say that himself, I thought I'd add it and get your guys' response to it. So, do you think that Call of Duty is unique? Because Umbra does believe it is. I don't.
We'll go to Hargeet.
Yeah, unique. I don't know if everything is unique in some way. Is it the only game that does what it does? In a sales manner, sure. It's the only game that's lasted this long, the way it has. And that's simply because they just put so many people on making a new entry every year. Is it unique? No, I don't think it's unique, because there's plenty of first-person shooters out there. There's plenty of war games out there. There's plenty of other options. If Call of Duty died, would it be the end of gaming? Heck no, right? So, but look, I could say anything is unique. Halo to me is unique. Does that mean it's the only game like it? No. Heck, Bungie made another game called Destiny. So you can always see something else out there, to me anyways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Look, before I do move on to the next topic, I'll just say, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good content creator stuff that I got to say. If you're new here, thank you guys for joining us in the chat. And you guys in the chat are absolutely amazing this week. You're cranking it out. And it's a little bit creepy that Pete's got a fan that's... Look at this. It's craziness in the chat.
It's Wiz, guys. Like, if you guys didn't know, it's Wiz. Yeah.
No, it's you. You've got another account.
He's got two accounts. Absolutely. Absolutely. He set up a second account, and he's writing to himself. I know what you're up to, Pete. Right? I'm banning Hund now. Look, we'll move on.
Coming from a man that has... I won't say the name of it.
So Risk It, just before you went on, and just one thing that's kind of interesting to me is, if this is an open one, right? So where Brazil let us see what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if this is exactly what they did with everybody else. So did every other regulator get the same exact disclosure? And like everybody else is like, it's fine, but Sony's like, this is the end of the world.
I would imagine so, man. I don't think that they would be changing their position.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. So like everybody's getting the same message. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
I think they said that New Zealand got a very similar proposal. So I think that, you're right. Everyone got this.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's buying it, especially when you look at I could read out all the other publishers that they went to for their opinions on the deal. I don't think anyone's buying it, really, especially when you look at those. But look, we'll move on to the next topic, which is related. And I wanted to talk about this, and this is in and out of gaming, but it could affect the deal. And it's great that you're here, Kay and Hargeet, because I think this is something that you guys will be all over. The FTC knocked back Meta's acquisition, which was an acquisition of a small app developer. The size of the acquisition was around about 400 million, I believe, 300 million. And they cited the fact that Meta could easily develop a studio that could put out the same content as the studio that they were trying to buy. That's not a reason for the FTC to knock back. It's a really weak reason for the FTC to knock back an acquisition. It's absolute craziness that this is happening, and at this point,
but to be fair, you must understand that the reason the FTC exists right now is to give Facebook shit. That's their existence.
Absolutely.
Whenever they have the opportunity to put a black eye in Zuckerberg, it doesn't matter. Your mom is ugly. They'll just do it. They'll just do it because that's all they're there for. It's what wakes Selena Khan in the morning. It's what makes her smile. And I'm there for it because they do need to give him some shit. He kind of does deserve it.
Oh, look, I absolutely agree. But I mean, it just creates a climate where they have to be they have to run congruent to their previous decisions, and they have to at least
overexerting their powers a little bit with this.
Yeah, and you can't do this to the FTC and then go. I mean, would they have done it? They did it with Bungie. They're like, yeah, Bungie's fine. That's $3 billion, no dramas. Can't see an issue with that. Oh no, you can't have a $300 million app developer because you could just do that yourself. And then I don't know. Like, it puts the Microsoft ABK deal in a little bit of a worrying position because Microsoft is a massive tech giant. So look,
but the context there, though, and I'm not saying, and I hate to be the one to defend the FTC right now, but from what I read and what I kind of understood there, I get what it is a weak argument, but I kind of get where they're coming from, because specifically with Facebook, they have evidence, right? Instead of making it yourself, you're buying up all your competitors so that you're the only game in town. How do we know? Oh, you have Instagram. Oh, you have WhatsApp. Oh, you have Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Like, they've seen them do it. So in that specific instance, you're like a Microsoft type. Infinite resources. You can basically buy up all the little guys trying to become competitors or trying to become app customers on your platform. You're buying them all up to become another conglomerate, and they don't like you. So heck no, you're not gonna get it. You know what I'm saying? Specifically with Facebook, I get where they're coming from.
I get that, Asante, but I still think it's very wrong with the way they're going about it. And I think it's incredibly worrying that Lena Khan has this progressive agenda that she's pushing. So the FTC is there basically to stop a monopolization of the system. Now, what they said was within the company they're buying, which is they're buying to get a fitness app, basically. That's what Within is going to do. And what they said is I forget the name of the game. If someone could help me out, that lightsaber game is basically the same thing. Well, and they're gonna they're basically gonna stop supporting that. They're going to stop supporting that if they buy Within, and therefore that is just ridiculous. They are completely different. One is a lightsaber game; it's not a fitness app. So I don't understand.
It's not the specifics of the app, though. It's not the specifics of the app. It's the idea that VR is a fledgling market, and you guys are a huge monopoly. And in the beginning already, you're buying up competitors to yourself.
Yeah, look,
that's the problem.
I can understand that, but even Lena herself said that what they're trying to do is get a precedent or get the courts to change how the FTC works around the edges, and she said, and
that's where I lose. That's where I can. At that point, I stopped defending them because that's the part where it's like, yeah, you even showed your hand there, so that's ridiculous. I agree with you on that one.
Beat Saber, I appreciate it. Yeah, you're right. And so what they're trying to do is get a progressive judge to say that to create a precedent that will change the law around the edges. Now, whether or not that happens, I mean, remains to be seen. But I mean, you're taking on Meta, you're taking on Facebook. They will take this all the way to the Supreme Court. And I'm not sure how the rulings go, but they will take it to the courts as far as it can possibly go, and eventually they will win. I mean, it's as simple as that. To say that it's an extremely risky proposition is, it's just ridiculous. They're going to lose this case, but what's going to happen in the meantime is it's going to waste a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of resources, and I just think that it's a very, very dangerous this
Politicized.
politicization of the FTC. I don't like it one bit, and it's very scary.
Yeah, it's being politicized for a long time. You know, it's been like this for a long time. It's just that just these days the pendulum swings very far one way, then it swings very far the other way. The people could have said the same thing when Disney bought their rival. You know, they were number one in the space and they bought their rival for the same amount of money that Microsoft is doing ABK, which was ridiculous. That should not have been allowed. But hey, you know, at that time, the winds of change were blowing in another direction. It just is what it is. It's just unfortunate that now that's the world we live in, right? Depending on what side of the house you fall on, either it's your time to shine and undo everything that has been done before, or vice versa. And both of them are just as terrible in breaking or bending the rules to their whim. It's unfortunate.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, because there's a threshold that's already defined, and by most nations it's defined that 40% you're viewed as a potential, at 70% you're a monopoly. And Disney, even buying everything, they're at 25%. So they aren't a monopoly. That's just the way it is, right? And there's one way to look at it and say, you know, hey, unless you break the rules, we're not going to go after you. Now, in the case of Meta, this is a very odd situation where they're like, we'll play Minority Report. We think and have this idea that somehow you will become a monopoly, and therefore we'll block you from doing something that might happen 20 years from now, but we should do it now.
Insanity.
You can't do that, and that is just, it's ludicrous, right? So, but looking at the language, I'm very concerned with ABK. I think she's absolutely going to sue. I don't think it's going to stop it. I just want to be clear, because eventually Microsoft will win. They are not going to be a monopoly, so they will win. But I think it's going to extend the stupid thing, because she will have the same kind of language. She said these specific words: "You could do this yourself. You're trying to buy your way to the top." That's literally what Microsoft is doing with ABK. That's literally what they're doing.
I disagree that she'll come after Microsoft and ABK because she's got a hard on for Amazon and Meta and these companies that have.
But this is one of the biggest deals that she's gonna see.
The reason why she has the hard on for these companies is because of how much power they have in the information space. So they control a lot of the information that gets out of there, and not so much in the gaming space.
In the enterprise space, Microsoft has a lot more power.
Yes, power, but power that they're not really interested in. And this is where I think that she won't come after the ABK deal. And look, I could be wrong. I hope I'm right, but I could be wrong.
Well, that's you made a very.
I would love nothing more, dude. I would love it if that was the case, and she's just
I'm with you on this, Peter, for sure.
You guys made a very interesting point earlier on, where Hargeet, you did say that they're talking about potential, and the FTC can't operate on potential legally, and so when this goes to court, it's going to get thrown out. They're going to be able to buy. They're going to buy the app. The Meta is choosing to fight it, and they will win it. And that's fine. But when it comes to the ABK deal, it's a little bit more convoluted of an issue, and I don't know if they took it to the Supreme Court, whether it would go through. Likely, I think it would. But look, I've got a question from someone in the chat here, which kind of moves us onto a different topic, and we were going to talk about a little bit later. But I'll ask it now, and we can come back to this if we need to. And guys, if you do have a question in the chat, please type question in front of your question, and I will ask the panel. We don't have super chats, but it's the way that we run our super chats. Is just all you need to do is type question before your question, and it'll highlight it to me, and I will ask it. He asks, can regulators step in and stop companies from buying up partial ownership from other companies, i.e. Tencent with Ubisoft, who is buying partial shares safe from regulatory scrutiny? I'm pretty sure it is, but look, I'll go to.
It depends on the threshold.
Yeah.
That's
how much of the transaction is it?
And it doesn't have to be 50% either. So, because this is already something that the FTC has been working on with even 10% or 5%. Tencent has become kind of a pain for the FTC as well. So, yes, it absolutely can block those kind of things.
Yeah,
Yep.
but depending on the size of the
how much monetarily that will the transaction will be. If it meets a certain threshold, oh yeah, they're having a conversation with you.
Yeah,
I agree with Hund. Pete is always right.
He's definitely look, DoomCutie. Look, I'll just quickly go to you before we move on onto the topic, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. Do you think that that this bodes badly for the ABK deal, that the FTC is being so hard out on Meta, or do you think it's a little bit of Meta playing, basically just not liking the FTC not liking Meta, and that this shouldn't affect the ABK deal? Where do you stand on that?
I don't think, I feel like it shouldn't affect it at all. But to be honest, I don't know why they would be interested in Meta in the first place. Like, yes, it's information, but like, I don't know. It's just they just know so much about us in every space. And I don't think it should be one body that knows all that stuff about us, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's good.
Well, yeah, I definitely don't think Facebook being able to buy up all of its competitors is a good thing. But I kind of get where they're coming from, Kay, as well. I think you were saying this earlier. I do get where they're coming from when they're talking about potential, because it is a fledgling market, VR. And it is something that you could work on now in its early stages, and end up becoming a monopoly because of
they changed their name to Meta, for goodness sake. Mm-hmm. You know, they're televising something. You know.
Exactly. But I don't think the FTC should be able to work on potential, because that's a rabbit hole I don't think I want a regulator to go down, to be honest.
Yeah, no disagreement there. Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a very dangerous rabbit hole to go down. Look, we'll move on to our next topic, but before we do, if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, and you guys in the chat are absolutely amazing. Please hit the like button and share it out. I almost said hit the mic button. So if you have a mic button, you can hit that too. We'll move on to our next topic, which is we're talking about Tencent. Logitech and Tencent have partnered up for a handheld. And this kind of relates to, something that was rumored earlier on in the month or last month about Microsoft coming, bringing a handheld to their platform. Look, I don't like when Tencent buys anything, ever. They've done some extremely egregious things in the past. Stuff like they went to the developers of a massive live service game and asked them to create a mobile game, and they refused. And when they refused, Tencent basically just copied the formula, almost mechanic for mechanic, graphic for graphic, and created their own. They do many things that are just basically disreputable. That microtransactions are crazy when it comes to Tencent. Tencent just has some really bad business practices. They steal people's information and all sorts of stuff. So I don't like Tencent even being in the industry, and I don't like it when companies partner with them, like Logitech, who's so big in the gaming space when it comes to hardware. But if they bring a decent console, I mean, a decent handheld, it's probably going to sell. What's your thoughts on this, DoomCutie? Are you excited to see Logitech bring out a handheld, even if it's partnering with Tencent, or would it be something that you would boycott just because it is Tencent?
Look, it doesn't actually bother me that Tencent would bring out a handheld, but I don't own a Steam Deck, so it's like I'm not a big fangirl of handhelds. So regardless of who made it, I probably wouldn't buy it anyway. And that's just from my personal perspective. It doesn't have a use in my life. Maybe for my kids, but even then, I'm not going to buy something that is very precious for them to, throw around and break and, be rolling around on the floor. You know what I mean? So it's it wouldn't bother me at all.
Well, look, yeah, absolutely. It does bother me though, because I don't want Tencent cornering any part of the market, be it handheld or anything to do with gaming. And I've got a question from...
They'd never cornered the market. Look at Nintendo, please.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got a question from the chat here, and I'm going to go to UK because I know that you are into your handhelds. The question is, what does the panel think of Chinese companies like Tencent buying Western companies, considering the state-sponsored IP and trade secret theft rampant in the PRC? So I'll ask you that, and I'll also ask you, what do you think of Tencent partnering up with Logitech to create a handheld for the gaming space?
Well, I mean, so I think it's a very interesting place we find ourselves. Yes, Tencent is that unknown entity that's been running rampant in the game space for a while now, and everybody has been warned about them multiple times. And yeah, they have connections to the Chinese government, and not to go down a rabbit hole, but they're systematically going through various countries, offering assistance. Buying up parts of countries, helping to clean it up, only to then own it.
Gotta love
later,
that Belt
right?
and Road initiative.
Exactly.
Wow.
Same thing they're doing now, right? You hear they're offering to buy stakes in Ubisoft. They don't own it, but at that point they can basically make influence, and that's what they're doing here, right? So, what do I think of it? I think it's a dangerous precedent, and I think that Microsoft and many of the other companies who have the capabilities to do so have been trying to ward them off for a while now, right? You heard it with the Bethesda thing. When he started, he basically, Phil Spencer did, basically put his virtual arm around PlayStation and Nintendo, partners in gaming. All that was specifically cue language to let people know that, and to let specific people know that, at least these are the guys and can trust, because these guys have their eyes set on an existing gaming space, and you don't want that, because with them comes a lot of more unwanted behavior in the gaming environment, and greed and all of that
shady
stuff.
practices.
Shady practices, exactly. So as far as them partnering with Logitech gets not necessarily a pass. They are a nameless, faceless peripheral company. They're trying to make it big, and it's just so they've been tried and true for so many years, but they've kind of lost their luster a bit. They've lost their they used to be like the name in keyboard mouse, no matter where you were, and they had like an amazing 10-year warranty or something. But since that time, they've kind of lost their luster, and all these other players have kind of eaten their lunch a little bit. So I don't necessarily look at them and go, how could you, kind of a thing, because they just are looking for relevancy at this point. They're trying to find their way back into gaming greatness as they used to be, but yeah, will this make a mark? They're going to try. I don't know if it's going to matter, because that space already is, believe it or not, many people are like, oh my God, Steam Deck is great. And I'm a big proponent of the Steam Deck. We've been talking about it. I'm a gamer in general. I have an Xbox. I have a PlayStation. I have a PC. I enjoy gaming wherever I can. I just find, as a dad, and I have a 5 and a 3-year-old, and they're always running, and I always have to chase them. It's not easy or logistically advantageous to play on your big screen, or to play in your office. You got to be on the floor with them. You got to be doing this, and every once in a while, you don't want to be whipping out the Elden Ring on the big OLED and scaring folks. So on the little screen where you can pop in there real quick, get some kills, and then turn it off, it works perfect. So for my use case, and I'm a tinkerer and I emulate a bunch of stuff, so for me it's perfect. But in general, as DoomCutie has already pointed out, Nintendo's out here and they're not going anywhere. So you're not gonna dethrone them. They have the hardware that is the abacus known as the Nintendo Switch, and still they're taking it to the bank every single quarter. So they're not going anywhere anytime soon. It's just, we all should be a bit weary when these kind of entities start entering the gaming environment, because it's very true that they're trying to muscle their way in, and not many of them are to be trusted like that, right? So I'm sure community good guy, everybody knows him, Jez Corden. He's been speaking of the ills of Tencent on its way, like Game of Thrones White Walkers coming down, and winter is coming soon. You know what I mean? So we all know it's coming. It's just we'll see what their offerings are. I think they have a very high hill to climb to even be relevant as far as, oh my goodness, they're like a new platform. I doubt that's even in the realm of possibility in the next, I don't know, 10, 15 years. They'll always be nipping at the edges, but I doubt that they'll eat into the market to a relevant point anytime soon.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I think the same thing, but you never know. Sometimes something will break into the market and be so good that it really it does corner the market.
Yeah, I mean, if it's definitively great because it's great on its own merit, hey, you got to give it to them, right? But I doubt that's the game they're playing. We shall see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't see it either. And I have to apologize for my dog being an absolute nutcase and letting every other dog in the neighborhood know who's boss. So if you can hear him in the background, apologies. Hagit, what are your thoughts on Tencent? Tencent stepping into the handheld console space?
Well, it's not really a handheld console. It's really just a cloud gaming console, right? So it's an interesting mix. It works with NVIDIA and xCloud. It's an interesting thing to do, and I don't know why Logitech needs Tencent to do this. Maybe they're funding the hardware manufacturing in China. But yeah, I don't. The whole thing with Tencent is if it wasn't controlled by the Chinese government, I would welcome it. It'd be good to have more big companies working in the gaming space. Right now, Amazon's kind of tepidly doing stuff. Apple has really only mobile interest, and Google's kind of rescinding. It would have been kind of nice to have more of that, like just beyond PlayStation and Nintendo. But with the Chinese government kind of totally controlling everything, they have like pushed their hand and they've told them to do things, and that kind of makes it annoying. So from a handheld perspective, I don't know that this is a good or a bad thing. It could be great. You'd kind of wonder why not the Switch having that, but maybe Nintendo and Xbox haven't been able to work that out. But because that way you'd get the Nintendo Games Plus. But either way, this could be good. We'll see. I don't know what the price point's going to be. But as far as them investing in Ubisoft, good God, I have very little interest in that.
Mm-hmm.
But this becomes another question mark, right? Is who else could invest in them? And we can't just keep saying Microsoft, because even like, let's say after ABK, yes, they have a little bit of room to go forward, but they have other needs, and you can't just keep saying, "Hey, Microsoft, go buy them, go buy them, go buy them, go buy them."
Well, should Microsoft
too big?
Should Microsoft invest in building handhelds?
I don't know. I mean, that's an interesting question, but Sony did this and it really didn't take. So like it did for one, and then like it just kind of fizzled. And I don't know that there's really that much of a market for it. We'll see how far the Steam Deck goes. If it really takes off, great. I still have a feeling it's going to be a niche product. It's not going to sell like 100 million of them. But we'll see, right? If it can get to that level, then maybe, right? I think the Switch is kind of in that sweet spot of it's portable, it's workable, and it has games that you can play that are good enough at that small chunk of time. Yes, there are other players, other games that can be played that way, but their games just are kind of cool that way, right? So, and they can be given to kids, right? So I think was it Asante you were saying, like if you have kids, just give them a Switch. They can just play wherever they are, right? Here you go, shut up and go play this. That is kind of a convenient thing. It just is. It really is. And I gotta assume the 110 million that they've sold, a lot of it is that, right? Is that you can just give it to your kid and they can play like wherever they are. It doesn't matter. They don't need to be tied to the big TV. So that is a convenient thing, whether they're in the car, in the living room, or in their own room, right? You just give them a Switch and go play.
Absolutely.
And you're pretty much guaranteed that they're going to be a lot of family-friendly games, and they're cartridges that you can give them, right? So
absolutely, yeah. I definitely don't parent like that. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, neither do I. Thank you very much.
But look, I've got a question from the chat. Thank you, Toolman55. See you every week, man. You're absolutely amazing. And thank you for your question. And it's a bit of an impromptu question. And DoomCutie did mention while we were discussing topics this week, we really don't get a chance to talk about games because there's really not much coming out that's super amazing and super interesting to talk about. And we do when we get a chance, and we have a little bit later. But while we're on the topic, this is a great question. So what is the panel's favorite game and or game series? And listen, at the moment, I'm going to answer first. At the moment, I really have to say I'm loving Dead Space. It really still holds up. Like, it crazily holds up. It's on the screen now. I can't wait for the remake, and I'm going to slide Callisto Protocol into that as well. So I played 1 about a year ago, just finished 2, and I'm working through Dead Space 3 with Grey Monad in the chat there, and I'm loving it. So at the moment, my favorite series is Dead Space, and it's very, if you ask me in another month, it'll be something else, I'm sure, because that's just how I roll. Pete, we haven't heard from you in a while, mate. What is your favorite game or game series?
Favorite game is probably The Witcher 3. Favorite game series is Mass Effect. I can't go past Mass Effect. I love the Shepard story. Just absolutely amazing. But put together as an actual game, I think nothing surpasses Witcher 3 for me. That is gaming at its absolute pinnacle. And I stand by that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hargeet, favorite game or game series?
Or both. So game series, I would probably go with Zelda. It's either that or Mario, but I'd probably go with Zelda. Favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Ocarina of Time? Are you saying Ocarina of Time? Because I would second that. That's.
It is up there, man. It is up there. I'm kind of leaning towards the potential of Witcher or Mass Effect as well, because those are fantastic. As a single just game, Witcher 3 is pretty damn good, and Mass Effect 2 is pretty damn good. But yeah, maybe I'll say Ocarina. It is the highest rated meta game of all time, right? Let's just go with that one, Ocarina.
Absolutely. DoomCutie, your favorite game or game series? It can be and game series.
Gosh. It depends what mood I'm in. Like, sometimes I'm like, Sims 4, best ever series ever created. And then other times I'm like, you know what? Forza Horizon will always be, always a game that I can just fall into no matter what. But then, I'm like, but you know what's also good? Every single Lego game is great. So I'm like, that's really hard. That's really hard for me. But if I was to choose just one, it would have to be Forza Horizon.
All right, perfect. Absolutely perfect. Kay, Asante, game or game series?
Let's see. So, okay. It's hard to really pinpoint. I was saying before, I'm a bit of a grazer. Shout out to Pong Soul, who coined that term, in my opinion. I play so many different games at so many times. It's hard to nail down. Every single game you guys have chosen, I'll put out for right now. I could say the same myself, but for sheer hours played alone, it would have to be the Master Chief Collection. I have like a total of maybe a year's of hours played in that game. I've been playing it for like 4 or 5 years consistently because I was part of the insider program, and I've beaten that campaign from the first game to the last game, which is 4 in that collection, over and over again, completely all the way through, like, which is days and days and days of gameplay. So just by that number alone, I would say most likely it's the Master Chief Collection's saga. A single game that I'm completely into, again, by sheer hours played, you can beat the game in about 35 hours. I'm about 200 hours and counting, and that is Forbidden West. I'm still playing that game. I could totally beat it. I'm at the last level, but I just love being in that world and finding bigger, crazier monsters and finding ways to put him down. Before you used to run, but now you're just the crazy turtle shows up and you're like, let's do this, and 2 shots and you got him down. It's amazing. And 200 hours in, it hasn't gotten old to me. So I would say that's probably my favorite game so far of the year.
Yeah,
it's an impossible question to answer, isn't it? I mean, how can you go past
Yeah,
Halo Master
absolutely.
Chief Collection? Like, you start on Halo CE, you're going to go do the whole series.
The
I
whole
mean, it's
thing. Yeah,
it's
awesome.
impossible to put down. And MCC was put together so well. But I was just thinking about it. I know I mentioned my other two games before, but nothing has given me that sense of exhilaration more than the Dark Souls series. Nothing has made me scream in absolute jubilation when beating a boss in Dark Souls and now Elden Ring. So yeah, I mean, what Doomy said is, was perfect. It's depending on what you're feeling like at any given time. And yeah, so many great games to choose from.
Yeah, it's a really tough question and a hard one to answer. Now, speaking of games, which we do get to talk about, I managed to get a chance to play Bright Memory Infinite. I did complete the game. It took me about 2.5 hours. Look, for a single developer, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. There's definitely a massive amount of bugs in that game. Nothing super game-breaking. More annoying. But for a single developer, this game's absolutely, it manages to push out 60 frames per second with ray tracing, or 120 frames per second. This is something that developers, big AAA developers, have struggled to do, and this single developer has managed to do that, and the game is absolutely beautiful. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how is it that at the beginning of the generation, the power of that PlayStation's SSD was absolutely trumping the Xbox, and Digital Foundry did a bit of a side-to-side with this, and PlayStation's was all over the place. Now, yes, it could absolutely be optimization, but just as a positive, and I'm not here to just stomp on PlayStation, this is not what I'm doing, I just want to point out that you're starting to see the power advantage in the Xbox, and you're starting to see the developers use some of the tools, to be able to push the Xbox into the new generation. We haven't seen any next-gen stuff. So I wanted to ask the panel, has anyone had a chance to play Bright Memory Infinite? What did you think of it? And I really do think it's just a small glimpse into the future of Xbox and what we can expect. Anyone? No one?
I haven't played it. You know I haven't played it, mate. I mean, I was basically in chat with you while you were playing it, and you were telling me how good it was. What it makes me hesitant to jump in is it's a 2.5 hour game, and however beautiful it is, 2.5 hours. I just don't know. I'm hoping it comes to Game Pass, mate.
So I can tell you, I have played it. Bright Memory has been out for a long time on PC, and if you bought Bright Memory, you got Infinite when it came out. So I actually played through Infinite on PC when it came out, and it was a buggy mess, absolutely. And it's like you can tell that for a long time the developer used a lot of stock assets from the Unreal store. You can actually point out certain ones that they bought. You can see them. Right, because usually what they do is they have asset artists who make custom assets for their game. If you're a single developer, you cut corners. That's the best way you got. And it was that, right? There was a lot of stock assets that were put together. Over time, you can see he's cleaned that up. You see the voice acting's gotten better and all that. The game as a story is ridiculous, but as a fun, awesome 2-hour thing, it's pretty great. And you've already heard me say it. #dad. I can't play, even though I have 20 hours in Forbidden West. That is nighttime gaming when the kids are asleep. I can't play games for too long. So you give me a beginning, a middle, and an end that's fun, and I appreciate it. So real quick, I get how initially Xbox was all like, yo, this is our game for a showcase, because it really does showcase well. But when you dig into the details, it's a spark. It's not really, it's not the thing that will get you to buy a console.
Definitely
it looks great.
It's made by one guy, bro.
It's made by one guy. So even just for that alone, you got to tip your cap. Tip your cap. I love Tunic, made by one guy. I love Death's Door, made by two guys. Anytime those guys, anybody, small groups of people can come out and really show you something, it's super impressive. And in that space, this is perfect. Absolutely, it's great. Now,
it
to
almost
your question,
comes across in actual looks as a AAA title. It is.
Oh yeah, absolutely. To the point where even Nvidia started showcasing, like, if you play it, and I have a 3080 PC capable. You play that thing on a 3080, 4K, 60, that thing melts your screen. Like it's insane how one guy has been able to push the envelope of quality as far as looks are concerned. It's really like gobsmackingly good looking when you really turn the dials up. It really
Not only
is.
that,
They did a
Kay,
great
on the
job.
Series X, they're getting a stable 120
Oh yeah,
frames
you
per
can
second.
pound that thing
is
as long as you want
almost
with
unheard of.
and
Yep.
it's like slick, solid 60. Very well, yeah, amazingly optimized. He did a great job. Now, specifically to your question, Risket, about when we'll see real AAA games and games that push the envelope, we are in this Gen 9 aware mushy middle, and we're going to be here for a while, right? We're going to be here for a while. What happened is, and you know, the problem here is a lot of marketing uses certain tech speak that then gets, you know, misconflated because it's tech speak, and most people don't understand it. That SSD stuff was absolutely ridiculous. I'm sorry. You know, it does a lot and it can do a lot, but it does not do everything they were trying to say it did. And now, of course, you're seeing all of that come into fruition. And those who know,
secret source SSD, if RDNA3,
you know, you hear that, and people just start snickering because some people were just like, "Oh my God, it's so fast that it can feed the graphics engine to the point where you don't even need a higher graphics processor." I'm just like, I'm sorry,
I thought
that's not how that
Ratchet and
works.
Clank
You know?
could only be done on the PS5, bro. Are you telling
Ratchet
me
and Clank can be done on a PS4. Even that's a Gen 9 aware game. It is. You know, it's beautifully made and wonderfully rendered. Like myself and Everborn, we have this conversation all the time. It's the perception versus fact, right? Perception versus marketing versus the actual fact. What do you call it? Gotham Knight, for instance. That game is going to come out soon. That is not a next gen game. Will you see a last gen version of it? No, but it's not a next gen game because they announced that they were dropping the last gen versions of that game late in development. And if you know anything about development, the decision you make first is what determines what kind of generation of game you're gonna make. And they started that game with Jaguar cores in mind, with PS4 and Xbox One processing in mind. So that means it'll always be limited to that. At some point, they couldn't swing it because they couldn't get the frame rate to stay solid or whatever. So they decided to forego that. Great. But because of marketing, they can't really take that to you. So now that's considered a next gen game. And so while we're in this mushy middle where the last gen has to be adhered to, right? And of course, Microsoft has done a great job by going, "Hey, Xbox One owners, here's your digital your app for Game Pass, right? And soon they'll let you play games even that you don't own on Game Pass through the cloud. So they no longer have to worry about your Jaguar cores anymore. So that's how they can, you know, kind of keep people appeased while moving forward into 9th gen. Until somehow, some way that's separated, you'll always have some of this weirdness. Is Starfield the next gen game?
I've heard both responses.
You've heard multiple responses about the status
about
of
Starfield. Yeah, well, about Starfield being able to be done on next gen systems. So I've heard that it can be played on Xbox One and that it can only be played on Series X. What's your stance on that?
Well, that requires more information, right? It's more than just an opinion. Like, was it optimized for the first gen and they chose not to release it that way? You know, is there a test build for that last gen version available? I mean, for as long as they've been building that game, I can imagine that's the case, because they probably didn't even have the full real detail to profile for it when they were building that game. So most likely they built it to PC spec and decided to deal with the consoles later, right? Which means it's open-ended. You can get a PC today that's way less powerful than a Series S and way more powerful, obviously. So if you're building for that from jump, it leaves your target large, and then you can specialize later in the console space. But needless to say, I could believe that.
When are we going to see a true next-gen game then that pushes the envelope, that uses all these features that we paid quite a substantial amount of money for?
I'm waiting for that day, my friend. I'm waiting for that day. You know, us tech dudes are clamoring for that day when we can see a title that we can say, okay, this is what we're looking for. But one thing you must be careful of, though, the marketing has trained us to look for certain things. And those things are misnomers. ray tracing and all of that. All that stuff, yes, it gives you the whiz bang. It shows great on screen, but that doesn't define true next gen.
I just want to chime in here.
I'm sorry. Please go ahead. Yes.
No, it's okay. Look, we have come so far, guys. So far. When I go back and try and play the old games, some people,
right?
some people love it, but I find it very difficult. And I honestly, I'm looking at what I have rather than what I don't have. And honestly, it keeps getting better, and it always will. And I think if we focus more on that than being like, oh, what year are we getting the real, true next gen on this console? Yeah, I paid money for my console, but I've had the best playing experiences I've ever had on that console.
Yeah, look, I can understand. I can understand that, and I'm going to push back on that a little bit though, because what I bought my console for, and you can call it misnomers or you can call it marketing speak. What I bought the console for was I wanted ray tracing because I actually care about ray tracing, but I wanted it at 60 frames per second, and I was told that it could be done. And it would be done, and
it can be done,
and that's what was going to happen. And we haven't seen it yet. I think we're going to see it sooner than you think. Okay, I think with Forza Motorsport coming out, and a lot of these first-party Xbox games, I think we're going to see true next gen.
Well, I honestly think that because of the way Xbox is threading that needle, you'll see it sooner from them. Why? Because they can kind of break away from last gen and still let last gen play the game. You're just playing it. Presumably, it's connected at home, right? You're just going to the cloud app instead of playing it locally, and that's a way they can do that. People are playing flight sim on an Xbox One OG, the old VCR. You can do that today, and the experience is pretty darn good. It gets better all the time, right? So I think on Xbox you will see that separation happen faster. But as long as the market is upside down, where PlayStation, and of course we're still in the chip shortage phase, it doesn't make it's not any easier getting your hands on silicon to the point where they're actually like continuing to make last gen, and but whether you like it or not, a developer has to adhere to them. You're gonna still see this, and it's just the way it is. It'll be up to first party to differentiate themselves in the market by making something really cool, but it's not cost effective for Ubisoft to put all the bells and whistles on an Xbox when then you have to go bespoke on PlayStation, right? There's not enough money for all of that.
Fable. Can't wait for the coalition to make something.
Exactly. That's the only place you're going to see those things, right? And I can't wait for Naughty Dog. What are they going to do next after they're done with this whole remaster remake thing they're doing? I want to see first party really do something, because that's the only place you're going to see a real representation of what that hardware is.
Yeah, well, look, absolutely. But, when you bought the PlayStation 5 console, you didn't pay for next gen, really. You do that when you buy the games with that extra $10. Exactly. So, look, we'll move on to the next topic. That was a little low-key shot at $70 games, which I hate doing that for you, Umbra, whilst you recover from COVID. Look, EA is apparently working on I know that there was a bit of a side topic, and I knew it was going to take us on a bit of a skew. If you've just joined us, please hit that like button, share it out. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. You guys are absolutely amazing. I do read everything in the chat. Toolman55, I will get to your question later in the show, but for now, we'll move on to apparently EA is working on a second Marvel game, and the rumor going around is it is or possibly is Iron Man. I spoke on this on Box and Burger show earlier in the week. And yes, they do have a really good blueprint for making an Iron Man game in Anthem. The mechanics of that game, they are good. That wasn't the problem with Anthem. There was other issues with Anthem, but I didn't mind. Like Pete, you're absolutely right. The mechanics were great, so that's a great blueprint. I don't want EA touching any IP, frankly, until they get the IPs that they have right. Now,
unless it's Respawn. Respawn can do whatever they want.
Unless it's Respawn. That's it. At the moment, I think they've only got one studio that's firing on all cylinders, and they're starting to spread that studio thin, with Vince Zampella looking after DICE as well as Respawn. Whilst there's a little bit of excitement there, and I hate to always go to the negative, seems to be like a gamer thing, but I'm a little bit concerned about who they're going to use to develop this game. Hargeet, I'll go to you. Who would you like to see? Because I don't think it's going to be Respawn, so removing Respawn from the conversation. Who do you think is primed to make a Marvel game, and if it is Iron Man, an Iron Man game?
Well, I mean, you did say Anthem has the formula, right? So you could see one of the BioWares doing it, I suppose, and maybe they are taking it on. But yeah, I mean, there is the like, are they going to do a good enough job? This is sad, but like, look, that BioWare's also got Dragon Age and the next whatever Mass Effect, if it's 4 or something new, to do as well. So would they be adding yet another thing? I don't know, right? But that Anthem thing is a potential, right? But yeah, if it's not Respawn, I don't know. I don't know who else would really do a good job.
Yeah, absolutely.
So-
I feel exactly the same way. And like, I don't think you can use BioWare. I mean, keep them in the conversation. But like you said, BioWare's got Dragon Age and they have the next Mass Effect. And they're not doing a great job of Dragon Age from all the reports that we're hearing. It may come out and be an absolute
Right.
banger, but we're not hearing good things in the background. And BioWare, as Pete said many times, it is not the BioWare that made, all these massive bangers in the past. It's a totally different BioWare. So, Pete, who would you like to see tackle this game?
I would like to see DICE do it, but
Ooh.
using Anthem because the gameplay in Anthem is incredibly fun. It is basically Iron Man. You basically are Iron Man in Anthem. So yeah, that would be my choice. I'd like to see DICE do it.
Right. Kay, let's go to you. Do you think that this is a good idea? That Disney.
Do I think it's a good idea? No, I don't think it's a good idea. But because EA has shown themselves to not be very good stewards, it took them a while. Vince Zampella notwithstanding, whatever it has to be. Hopefully, Vince is involved, because if it's not, then I don't have faith. But my pessimistic side aside, let's say Motive. They've done pretty good work in the past. They've been really kind of trying to be that next, over the shoulder cinematic third person, cinematic, almost PlayStation like in their approach when they want to do storytelling. So, we all agree that the Iron Man mechanics that were garnered by Anthem was key. Hopefully there's some inter studio communication there, and maybe they can borrow that from them. But that studio tries to, they've had varying level of success. I did like what do you call it? I forget the name of the game they made not too long ago. The Star Wars games. They've had 2 Star Wars
Jedi
games.
Fallen Order. Fallen Order was amazing.
Well,
yeah.
Fallen Order was Respawn. I'm talking Motive. They've had 2 Star Wars games themselves as well. I think they did the campaign to one of the multiplayer focused ones. They did a campaign level to it that I thought was pretty good. It was a little stinted, but the storytelling was pretty good there.
Talk about
and
Battlefront.
Then they recently did Battlefront, exactly. And then they recently did one where it went. There was a VR version of it and a non-VR version where you're in the cockpit and you're basically you're either on the
Rogue Squadron.
Rogue Squadron, exactly. Both games, not like the tip of the spear, not like AAA caliber insane, but they've shown their aptitude there in both instances, and their storytelling in both instances have been very, very admirable. So, maybe hand it to them if you have to hand it to an EA studio at all. But come on now, Disney, you've shown that you're starting to spread your wings. You're starting to fly. There are more studios you're handing it to that's not EA. Please continue on that train, because EA had you locked down for how many years now? It wasn't a good look when they did it. So I don't know, and Vince can only spread himself so thin. If Vince is there, I'm good. But Vince can only spread himself so thin. So
exactly.
Well, they've got him in charge of the Battlefield storytelling campaign, so I think he's got too much on his plate. And I still want to see Titanfall 3. I love Titanfall.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic franchise.
But isn't Motive doing the Dead Space thing?
Yes, they are. You're right. They are. They're doing the Dead Space thing now. Yeah.
No, it could be that they're going to work on it next, right? Because Dead Space is coming up. So
yeah,
that's right. They could.
It depends. I don't know. You guys are focusing on Iron Man as a like in his suit, but I personally, the Iron Man story is I love it. He is actually my favorite Marvel character next to Hulk, and I know. What are you going to say?
Oh, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
But if
I'm
I
a Marvel
don't,
zombie, so I'm good. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like, if it isn't one of the ones you guys mentioned, what about like Eidos Montreal? Because I really enjoyed the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
No. It's got to be.
But it's got to be an EA studio.
Yeah, it's got to be within
That's
EA.
the problem.
Oh,
Yeah, it's an EA.
really?
Yeah.
Oh well, then they shouldn't make the game.
That's what I knew it.
I don't know how you guys keep it inside your head. I can't remember which studio works with who. Jeez.
Yeah, look, I don't think there's a studio within EA that I would actually trust aside from Respawn personally. So
Well, there you go. Then that's it. Then that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it's a very brave thing for Disney to continue handing off IPs to EA, especially with their past. It definitely threw me through a bit of a loop. I had to think about that. There must be something. They must have brought a vertical slice or a concept that Disney liked. They must have something already, because I can't see Disney going, yeah, absolutely, here, ruin another IP.
I want to see what Motive is like, what the new Dead Space remake is going to be like, and I think it's going to hit really well. And so, yeah, I agree with Kay. I think Motive could do a really good job as well.
I think they need to go back to some of these third-person over-the-shoulder games and bring up some of these older IPs that EA used to be synonymous with and what made them great, instead of focusing on the FIFAs and things like that. But we'll see what they do in the future. If you're just joining us, guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're new, you guys in the chat, absolutely amazing. KY Bob, Joanna Dark, Yo Danny, Mr. Bushido, Toolman55, Talos Ree, you guys are all absolute champions. Bobby Hawk, even though you are a PlayStation guy, we will not hold it against you, Palpatine. Hund, you get out of the damn chat. Now, moving on to the next topic.
You leave Hund alone.
Yeah, Pete, get out of the chat.
Moving on to the next topic, and our last topic for this evening. There is apparently an unannounced Xbox game in the works, which is not surprising because we know that there's quite a few in the works. But the studio is the surprising part. G'day, Joanna Dark, how you doing? The studio is surprising part. Roundhouse Studios, who has been assisting with Redfall up until this point, apparently has another game in the works. They used to be called, I think off the top of my head, Human Head Studios. And they've mostly assisted on games. They've mostly been an assistant studio. I think they made Blair Witch back in 2000. Then they moved into kind of assisting studios with, like, most notably, I think Prey was one of them. Rune 2 was another one that they assisted with. So this is very interesting, and I wonder what kind of a game it would be. They've got a lot of experience with RPGs. They've got a lot of experience with first-person shooters in the kind of the vein of Prey. So I'd be very interested to see what they put out. I am kind of hoping that they do a third person over the shoulder, but from what I see from their history, I would tend to think that they would be very likely to do a first-person type Bethesda RPG sort of shooter, maybe Borderlands type thing, maybe a little bit more serious. That's kind of my thoughts when I heard this, but I'm really interested to see. And also it goes to show you the way that Microsoft is going, because we know with the ABK, they've got a lot of support studios, a lot of studios that are supporting that shouldn't be, that could make great games. And you can see here that Microsoft is giving these smaller support studios a chance to stand out, a chance to do their own thing. Hargeet, are you at all excited? Do you have any thoughts on what you think Roundhouse might be pushing out the door?
Well, Bethesda generally makes some pretty good games, right? So hopefully it is something cool. I don't know, like, based on what they've done, what it would look like. That is a good point. But I mean, now they do have Microsoft's money, right? So depending on how far it is in development, they could inject more into it and say, hey, make this the biggest AAA thing you can. So it could get to be a pretty good game. We'll see, right? But yeah, I generally like games that Bethesda puts out, so I'm hopeful. Hopefully it is a good game. I don't think there's too many failures besides Fallout 76.
No,
but
not
they
at all.
generally put out really good games.
But Roundhouse is normally a support studio within, I believe, within Microsoft, and they are under Bethesda Software.
Within Bethesda, you mean? Right?
Yeah, and under Bethesda, they are under Bethesda as well. But they kind of haven't worked on the standard fare of Bethesda games. You know, they've worked a lot on Prey, and then slightly different RPGs. It's not the Bethesda formula that they've kind of worked on. And they haven't worked on it.
Storytelling is the interesting part, right? So can they do their own, right? It's one thing to say, okay, I can do the assets that you've already defined versus I'm coming up with the actual storyboard and I'm coming up with the actual storyline. That is an interesting question. We'll see what that's like, right? Hopefully they can get something there. And then you also don't know if God Howard isn't actually helping them come up with some of that. So it is always possible, right?
Well, you mentioned Fallout 76, and from all reports, God Howard was there, but not there.
Exactly, right? Yeah. He was supposed to help, but it's like, you guys go do whatever you want.
Sorry, just while Mr. Joanna Dark is here, I just wanted to point out that Multiverse is so much better than Smash Brothers.
Absolutely, it definitely is. Smashes Nintendo's Smash Brothers.
And Risk It, I don't know if you saw the little note I put in for graphics. I know you kind of skipped me on the whole graphics thing, and when we get to the next gen, but there was a nice little video I saw. It is fantastic. It showcases UE5 and what some developers have done with it. So I don't know if you've seen it. If you haven't, it'd be great to actually show it in the podcast. It's a fantastic view of what next gen should look like and how real it looks. But if you can give it a shot, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Just let me know where you've linked it, and I'll.
It's in Discord.
Okie dokie. Oh, right, yeah, because you send me direct messages. Yeah, cool.
Ooh, direct messages. Ooh,
he does.
It's also in our podcast chat.
Yep, cool, fantastic. I've got it. I will check this out right now.
Moving on. Multiverses, by the way, not multiverse.
Moving on to DoomCutie. What do you think we're going to see?
Do I exist on the podcast now? Do I?
What do you think we're going to see from Roundhouse Studios? What do you think is likely to materialize based on their past history?
I've got no idea. Honestly, I've got no idea. Some people have been very surprising lately in what they're putting out, and it could be anything. But hopefully, it's something that has photo mode.
Absolutely. Kay Asante, look, what's your thoughts on Xbox allowing these little studios to shine and have a shot and bring out some of these you never know, you might get the next amazing IP.
Yeah, so their name change kind of gives them some anonymity a little, but the misnomer is they're not a support studio for Prey. They made the original Prey, not the exactly Prey that Bethesda released.
Oh, right.
They made yes, and that Prey was effing awesome. I played the hell out of that game. It was so good. I was upset when Bethesda bought Human Head Studios and then took the Prey IP away from them. That's what happened, right? And they actually had started on Prey 2, and it was eventually canceled. If you look in their in their discography, if you will, they have a lot of different kind of things going, but they're very AAA capable. If you've ever played that OG Prey, not to take anything away from the Bethesda Prey, which is also very good, but that original Prey gets no credit. It was so good, very good, creepy, weird story, made so much sense. Ahead of its time at the time when that game came out. So I hope they're allowed to, shine once again, to take another stab at doing a AAA something. I mean, it was good enough to where, at the time it was 2K Games that published that one, but to the point where they were bought and Bethesda took the Prey IP with it, right? So they made something that left an impression on somebody. I just hope they're allowed to go back and shine again, because their filmography, their discography, I should say, it's all over the place. They've had PlayStation games, they have iOS and Android games, AA fare, smaller titles, but they have made that OG Prey, and I really stand behind that. That was an awesome game.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I thought they assisted on it, but that's really cool. That kind of puts them
2006 version of Prey.
Yeah, that puts them in a whole kind of different class mentally for me. That brings them up a notch and creates for me a little bit of excitement, and I hope for the chat as well. Like it's created a little bit of excitement for you guys. And I apologize for the misinformation there. I should have done a little bit more research on that, but that's awesome. I actually absolutely cannot wait to see what they put out now. And if it is down that Prey kind of first-person shooter 2006 Prey, I am super excited to see what they can do. Geek, this is amazing. I don't know if you guys are watching this on screen right now, but if you are not watching, you are just listening, just flick to your screen right now. This is what Unreal Engine can do on these systems. And this is what we're waiting to see. And this is what we're hoping to see. And it is absolutely beautiful. And if we could see this implemented, I think in the next 3 years, system well worth it. You're always going to have this cross-gen sort of crossover, and that's just, I guess how it is. Look, guys, we do, and shout out to artstation.com as well for putting this together. We do have to end the show. There's not a whole lot really to talk about this week, and I don't want to drag it out for the sake of dragging out a show. But we have had an absolutely amazing show. Chat, you guys have been absolutely awesome. Thank you all, guys, for coming through, giving us your thoughts. I do read every single one of them and some of the questions that we've had. Before I do go, I will flick to Toolman55's question. I hadn't forgotten. And then we'll go to the outros. The question is, if you could only play one type of game for the rest of your life, what type of game would that be and why? It would be a multiplayer game because multiplayer games have legs. So what type of game? Yeah, like some sort of first-person shooter multiplayer or a massive MMO or something along those lines. So I could just, those things have legs and they can never get boring. I think if you played a single-player experience over and over and over and over and over and over and over, you would be a PlayStation guy. Okay, Asante, I'll go to you first.
Wow. Daggers, man. Daggers.
I'll go to you first, mate. What's if you could only play one type of game for the rest of your life, what type of game would that be and why?
See, when I heard that question, I didn't hear the word type. So my brain went to what game, specifically game, would I play for the rest of my life and I could do that? And you know the first thing that came to mind? Objectively the greatest game ever made. Ever. Objectively. Tetris.
Yeah, that does have legs.
It still shines to this day. I'm sorry.
Pac-Man.
Pac-Man gets one note after a while, but Tetris keeps reinventing itself.
Tetris is a little better.
Yeah, it is amazing. Okay, look up.
That's where my brain went for some reason. I don't know why. Type of game, I think you're spot on right there. Some multiplayer, something like Fortnite that just keeps growing and changing over and over and over again. You'd never get bored, you know.
Oh my God, Asante. You know that word is banned here, right? We're not allowed to talk about the joys. No. We're not allowed to talk about the joys of Fortnite, are we, Risket?
We don't use the F word here.
No, yeah, we are. I'm not a big Fortnite fan. I don't like.
That's right. Asante, we can duo after this if you want.
I admire it from afar. I'm a noob. Forgive me. You know, I admire it from afar, and I see the waters are deep, and I'm like, I just don't have enough time in the day.
To me, it let itself get out of control, and I think
you would be brilliant at it, Risk.
I think it needs to just shut down.
It's the metaverse that we don't want.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you mean,
exactly
metaverse? Wow.
It is. It's the only place where Master Chief and Kratos can sit in a car and go shoot people. Come on now.
Yep,
that's true. That is
and
true.
I love it.
Yep.
I love it.
So DoomCutie will go to you next. What's if you can only play one type of game for the rest of your life, what type of game would that be and why?
It would. Yeah, look, Risk it. You're right, and I rarely say that, but you are right in this instance. Any sort of multiplayer game would be very good, or any sort of like life simulation game. You know, that would be okay. But then I'm playing by myself, so I'll go down the multiplayer route.
Yeah,
for sure.
Hargeet, sir, if you could play one game, this would be torture for you, I think, if you had to just play one game. But if you could play one type of game for the rest of your life, what type of game would that be and why?
Good God. All right, so I'll pick something probably a little different, it would probably just be the one game, Halo Wars. It's both
okay.
multiplayer and single player, and it's just good enough. It's just fun. I played so many hours of that game. I like the Tetris one though. That's a pretty good one. But I'll go to Halo Wars.
Oh, I do like Halo Wars. I wish it had keyboard support. Yeah, that's the only disappointing thing about it for me, because just that type of RTS that requires quick movement, it's just so much easier, more enjoyable for me with the keyboard. But I get it, man. Halo Wars is actually a really, really good game. If you haven't played that, guys, jump into it. Play that game. It is fun.
Steve said Minecraft. It's a good one.
Oh, Minecraft.
Absolutely.
He also said Fortnite is poo. Jedi Knight Pete, if you could only play one type of game for the rest of your life, what type of game would that be and why?
I just wanted to quickly shout out, Monad said Beyond Good and Evil lead writer just got changed again. I don't know how they're changing the writer so far in development. That game is looking like it's in real trouble. So thank you, Monad, for that. Look, I did answer the question before. I said either an RPG or a first-person shooter. I'm going to have to go first-person shooter. And if Halo, judging by the amount of hours I've got in Halo Infinite, it probably has to be that. And if they can get Forge up and running then and getting constant community maps coming in, it's got to have to be something like that. Other than that, it'd probably be something like Elder Scrolls Online or Ark. I've got that many hours in Ark.
Type of game. It's a type of game, not a specific game. And we almost got through a full show without talking about Halo. That would have been
what a travesty.
That would have been our first show that we did not talk about Halo one time. Pete, you've ruined it. No, it's all good, mate. All good. Absolutely. I kind of agree with you. So type of game, you're saying first person multiplayer shooter. That would be me as well. Absolutely, man. I think that sort of stuff has legs. It's easy to jump into and jump out of. And yeah, Halo would probably be the one for me. Absolutely. It used to be Battlefield, but yeah, that's just definitely gone down the gurgler. What a fantastic show with some fantastic guests. And Hargeet, thank you again for coming in late notice, as Umbra has got COVID and is extremely sick, and we did miss him. But I'll talk to him after the show.
Thoughts and wishes to Umbra. He's really feeling crook, guys, so that'll really cheer him up.
Yeah, definitely do that.
Spam him all at the same time
on Twitter. He would love to see that. Hargeet, thank you very much for coming on. Please let the people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to this week, and what you'll be playing.
Yeah, well, Umbra, speedy recovery. Hopefully you feel better soon. So Game On Daily, GameOnDaily.com, and our Game On Daily YouTube channel. And I'm online. HChani is the gamer tag.
Fantastic. You cannot find Hargeet on Twitter because he's the smartest man in gaming. Moving on to Kay Asante. Awesome takes. You have awesome views on the industry, and we love having you on the show, man. And it was a great show, and loved hearing all your takes on the topics. It is very light on topics, and I really can't wait to see what happens in the industry in the very near future with Gamescom coming up, and hopefully they bring something. I didn't want to talk about that this week. I hopefully talk about it next week. But Kay, let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to, what you'll be playing this week, and what's in the future for you.
Oh, well, thank you guys so much for having me as usual. It's always a pleasure being here. Shout out to my man, Mr. Umbra, who's hopefully recovering very soon. I will check in on you when I can. I hope he's doing better as soon as possible. And actually, I haven't had the pleasure of podcasting with Hargeet, so I appreciate being here on a time where I can podcast with you, good sir. I always appreciate your takes in the community as well. And DoomCutie, I've been following your stuff, also very, very cool. So I'm always appreciative of being here and being able to communicate with old and new friends. So as for me,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely, for sure.
It's been a pleasure.
For me, For sure. This week, I will most likely be playing more weird, obscure games. I cannot stop playing. I promised myself I would start in earnest Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I really want to play that. It looks better than I thought it would initially, so I'm thinking I probably will do that. My daughter and I are still playing Kirby, so I can't put that down right now. But we'll see what else is out there. My backlog is huge, as most people's is. So from time to time, I like to dig into that. You can find me TKO Asante on Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, all the places you can find me. You want to talk games or start just play games together. I'm always down to talk and play with the community. I'm a co-host on the Gaming Circle podcast on Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard. This weekend, a buddy of mine, old developer friend of mine, wanted to come on the show and have a chat. He heard that PlayStation is now putting all their games on PC, and he thinks that's a travesty. And he's asking me, where have the world of exclusives gone? So, oh boy, we're gonna have a fun conversation. That's gonna be Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard. If you can come and check us out, I know many of you in the chat already do, so I appreciate that. But yeah, you can find me there, and otherwise, most likely in your chats, because I enjoyed the show all the time. So when I can, you'll see me in here. And once again, I appreciate you guys letting me be a guest today.
Absolutely, man. We appreciate having you, and I will definitely be along to that one. That sounds like it'll be hilarious. And you guys do have a good time on that podcast, and I really do enjoy watching it when I can make it.
We like being slanderous.
Yeah, I love it. I do love it. It's a great one to watch. And if you guys haven't gotten over there to watch, you guys need to absolutely. And I will link it it is linked in the description. Kay's channel. And Yodani Quizada, you champion. He has linked it in the chat. So thank you very much for that. I didn't have to. That's great. Because I've already got 2 pairs of hands. Who I've done the guests. I'm a bit all over the place because I was in the middle of doing something when you finished it. JediKnightPete. We had a great week playing the Ascent, and we may be playing, I think everyone's playing Turbo Golf after the podcast, so that should be fun. But please let people know where they can find you, what you're up to, what you'll be playing for the week.
Twitter at JediKnightPete, Xbox at JediKnightPete. Yeah, look, I think we're going to jump into some Turbo Golf racing after the show. Wiz just invited me to a party that is hung, if anyone didn't realise. It wasn't me. Kay, you were amazing. Second time on, your takes are fantastic. Huggy, man, I told these guys a couple of days ago that we should have invited you onto the podcast. I hate getting you in last minute, bro. You are worth more than that.
Pete, last week, week you took it. You took full credit for our guest, and here you are again gloating. You've logged in as another person, loving up on yourself in the chat. Jeez, this guy.
So yeah. Really want to play some more Ascent with you, Risket. Really good time. I've had a couple of people in the chat as guest. Mr. Joanna Dark wanted to get into Multiverse, so I am definitely down for that. Just hit me up on Twitter or on Xbox. Peace out, guys. Great show.
Awesome, fantastic. And last but definitely not least, DoomCutie. Fantastic show. Thank you, Alex, for coming every week, giving us your takes on what's going on in gaming. Please let people know where they can find you, what you'll be up to, and tell them about our stream coming up on Sunday.
Oh, I have to tell them. Okay. No, that's good. Thank you so much for everyone that came by. I'm not sure if anyone followed through from my stream, but thank you all for being here every week. Lots of you are diehard fans. You're always here, so we always love you. Yes, Umbra, feel better, although enjoy the rest, since you'll be off work and you'll be able to recharge and hopefully be better. And right as rain for our next podcast. This week, where you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Twitch. I stream 3 nights a week. Oh, speaking of streaming, Risket and I will be streaming Gears of War. I haven't played it, but I'm playing it with Risket. So if you were there last time, you would know how much fun we had. So yeah, go and check that out. I'll be live streaming it on Twitch, and Risket will have it here on YouTube. So yeah, hope to see you there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I will. It was an absolute blast last time, and it's going to be fun and funny to play again. And it's just good that I've got time to do these sorts of things now. That I've got. I'm basically.
Oh, it's 7 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time.
Yeah, and 7 a.m. Australia, US EST. Anyway, fantastic show. Chat again. Thank you very much for coming along and throwing your 2 cents into the chat, guys. We love it every week. Thank you so much. I am going to shut the show down now. Have a good one. Thanks. Bye. Fuck.